If we allow Supreme Court nominees to lie under oath and secure lifetime appointments to the highest court of the land, and then issue without basis, if you read these opinions, issue without basis rulings that deeply undermine the human and civil rights of the majority of Americans, we must see that through. There must be consequences for such a deeply destabilizing action and hostile takeover of our democratic institutions. This is what we're saying.
Do you think lying in a confirmation hearing is an impeachable offense?
I believe so.
So that was AOC just a couple of weeks ago, pointing out, regrettably with Chuck Todd, that we should have some standards for the Supreme Court, and having basically the only barrier between them and a lifetime appointment is the process they need to go through with the Senate, where they answer questions about what they intend to do, what they think about the Constitution, the law, precedent, all of that. It has now been clearly demonstrated that on some of the most consequential areas, they have lied intentionally to get those appointments. And so now we need to decide as a government, as a society, is that acceptable? Should these Senate hearings mean even less going forward than they do now, when we know that there's no reason to believe that they're telling us the truth? Well, in pursuit of that, she has now, with Ted Lieu, sent a letter to Chuck Schumer, a tweet accompanied saying, "We cannot allow Supreme Court nominees lying and or misleading the Senate under oath to go unanswered. Both GOP and Dem senators stated SCOTUS justices misled them. This cannot be accepted as precedent. Doing so erodes rule of law, delegitimizes the court, and imperils democracy." And they focus in on the area of Roe v. Wade, saying multiple Supreme Court justices misled the American people during their confirmation hearings about their views on Roe v. Wade and Casey versus Planned Parenthood. At least two of them, Justices Brett Kavanaugh and Neil Gorsuch, directly lied to senators. So let's dive into a little bit of the evidence, examples of just some of the lies that Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is alluding to. She says of Justice Gorsuch back during his hearing in 2017, he said, "I would tell you that Roe v. Wade, decided in 1973, is a precedent of the United States Supreme Court. It has been reaffirmed. A good judge will consider it as precedent of the US Supreme Court, worthy as treatment of precedent like any other." He also stated he would have, quote, "walked out the door if the former president had asked him to overturn Roe." Justice Kavanaugh the next year said, "It is settled as precedent in the United States, entitled the respect under principles of stare decisis," I believe. I'm not a law student, but that's what I believe it is. "The Supreme Court has recognized the right to abortion since the 1973 Roe v. Wade case. It has reaffirmed it many times." He also stated it is not as if it is just a run-of-the-mill case that was decided and never been reconsidered. And so it is clear that they knew pressure was on them to reassure the Senate that they would not be overturning Roe v. Wade. They knew that for the same reason that senators didn't want them to make clear that they wanted to destroy Roe v. Wade. As all of these people know, they know that the American people don't support this, and thus the ongoing campaign to convince them that failed for a half a century, and then the campaign to get them on the Supreme Court regardless. And so I'm curious what you think about this, Jessica. Like, not necessarily about the pragmatism of it. Like, I can't conceive of them doing literally anything to the Supreme Court at this point, but maybe you disagree. But do you think that this should be grounds for reconsideration of their positions?
Yeah, absolutely. Impeachable offenses for Supreme Court justices include lying under oath. There's even a clause in the Constitution that says so long as they have good behavior. So if they're exhibiting bad behavior, apparently that is also a reason to impeach them. And so yes, lying under oath is a reason to impeach them. They did lie under oath when they were, giving their testimony before they were going to be considered and confirmed. And so a lot of people are going to say, well, if we go to impeach them, this is partisan behavior, et cetera. Their nomination to the court was partisan. Trump said in the debates in 2016 to Chris Wallace, "I am going to be appointing pro-life justices to the court." He said that, and then that's what he did, and then they overturned Roe versus Wade. So what AOC is doing is in response to a partisan nomination to the court. What she's doing by calling for impeachment is actually upholding the Constitution and fighting for the legitimacy of our government and democracy. And of course, the right, and maybe even mainstream media that's considered, left of center, will probably be criticizing her for saying this, saying that it's partisan to just call for the impeachment of sitting justices because they've, had a ruling that you don't like. But AOC is exhibiting real leadership here. And I know a lot of people are gonna say the left loves to eat itself alive. You're not gonna agree with every leader on every issue, but AOC has been the person with the plan of what to do in this moment. She's been the person fundraising on Instagram Live the moment the ruling was overturned. She's been in the streets, and a good leader in social movements gets behind the people and pushes, and that's really what AOC has been doing.
I agree, yeah, 100%. They're saying that they're behind the scenes trying to do a carve out for Roe v. Wade. Okay, well, maybe act like it. How about not everything needs to be behind the scenes. Some of it can be in front of the scenes, because the scene right now is that a lot of people across America feel like you're ignoring the fact that their rights are being stripped away. You should reassure them of that. And AOC is going out there and trying to rally support for doing this. Yeah, like, and by the way, the right, as Jessica said, definitely will say, well, you just don't like that they did. But can you imagine how the right would feel if there was an area where, let's imagine that there are leftist Supreme Court justices that they had gone through confirmation hearings, very clearly and explicitly said, here is my stance on this, and then they did the exact opposite, and in so doing, stripped away rights. Let's say that they did this on the Second Amendment or whatever. Do you think the right wouldn't be calling for them to be impeached? The only reason that they can't do that we can't put this to the test, is Roe v. Wade. The position of Roe v. Wade is basically the only thing where you have decades of very clear questions, people really trying to nail down the positions that these justices have. And the right, again, they don't care because they like the outcome. They don't have an attachment to the norms, the traditions, the Constitution, democracy, any of that. It's all results-based. They'll go along with democracy if it results in them being in a position of power, a position of preeminence, supremacy. As soon as it's not, they're done with it. We can be consistent, and in this, I would argue that we are being consistent.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.